Council. We have a very full house here this evening, and I know that there's a few items on the agenda that I know some members of council have suggested that we hold off right to the very end so that you get to stay for the entire process, but in the spirit of the season I think we'll see if council will maybe move a couple of those items up so that you can get home and do whatever it is you need to do. So having said that, we have a faith blessing this evening, and I would like to invite Reverend Crystal McGee from First United Church to step forward and welcome this evening.
I feel welcome. Thanks for the hospitality you've extended to the faith communities. Friends, in this season of darkness, we long for light. The days are short and the nights are long, suited for slumber. But you ask us to be awake, alert, ready, willing, capable. As we welcome the stranger, as we give and receive, may we recognize your blessing. May we be your blessing. Amen.
Are there any additional items for tonight? Councillor Adair.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll be bringing forward a motion on no parking signage on the boulevard by the Medical Center.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to make mention of a great concert I attended yesterday.
Anyone else? Councillor Purdon.
Yes, I'd just like to extend condolences to the community in the United States.
Anyone else? Staff? Seeing none. Disclosure. Oh, I'm sorry, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you. Seeing no one else, we have disclosure of pecuniary interest, please. Councillor Adair.
Thank you, Your Worship. I disclosed a pecuniary interest in the in-camera meeting.
Thank you. That is noted. I have confirmation of the minutes, please, from the regular council meeting on December the 3rd.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Chamberlain that the minutes of the regular meeting of City Council held on December 3rd, 2012 as printed be adopted.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Minutes of the pre-budget meeting, please.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Chamberlain that the minutes of the pre-budget meeting of City Council held on December 10th, 2012 as printed be adopted.
All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. A resolution moving council and committee of the whole, please.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Chamberlain that City Council now go into committee of the whole to consider public meetings, deputations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports, matters tabled, motions for which notice was previously given, and other business.
All those in favor? All those opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We are now in committee of the whole. We do not have any public meetings this evening. We do have a couple of deputations, and I'll invite our first deputation is Mr. Allan Johnson, and I would invite Mr. Johnson up to the podium, and as a local singer and songwriter has an interesting presentation for us this evening.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I would call on the young man who's supposed to be coming up here.
There he is. Right on cue.
I'll let him go first, and this will speak for me, and I will speak after.
Thank you.
That's a little town in Ontario.
Thank you very much. So that's my presentation of that song for Owen Sound. And I'm putting forward that, hoping that you would adopt that song.
Well, that will be entirely up to council, but I can tell you, I sure saw a lot of heads nodding and a lot of feet tapping, and I have to say thank you so much for bringing this to us. And we will certainly be, Councillor Lemon seems to be anxious.
I would be pleased to make a motion that we, sorry, I didn't move the microphone. I would be very pleased to move a motion that we make that our song. It's unique, it's fresh, it's vibrant, it's alive, and it describes what we are. I think it's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I had the pleasure of hearing Mr. Johnson perform that at the Christmas Fun broadcast. This year, so.
That fiasco.
Oh, that was that.
I came back.
You came back, and it was,
yes.
It was a good job. I'm just wondering on Councillor Lemon's motion if it might be more appropriate to refer to, and I'm thinking Economic Development Committee for more consideration. I think it's an excellent idea worth considering, and I'm just wondering if that might be the best way to proceed.
That's entirely up to council. To the mover of the motion.
Well, I'm willing to go through committee, but I think that in sending it to committee, we're encouraging them to adopt it, because I think it's the kind of thing that it's really good. And I think it's an opportunity to sort of sell Owen Sound in a different way and sell us musically. We certainly have it in art, and we have it in many other ways. And this song brings it all together, mentioning so many of the things. I love the attack. And nothing would make me happier than to have the whole arena singing that as we win the OHL again this year, or this coming year. I'm subtle, but I will accept that as a friendly amendment.
Okay, so what's going to happen, council will now vote. Let's vote on it first, and then I'll say what's going to happen. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. That now will go to our Economic Development Committee, and I expect they'll have some positive recommendation to bring back. So I thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Now we're in a celebratory mood here this evening. We'll invite Michele Mannerow to the podium, and Michele is here to provide an announcement of the winners of the Medical Student Bursary Awards for 2013. And this is something that Ms. Mannerow has spent a lot of years and an awful lot of time on. And I certainly give you congratulations on behalf of the community for all the work that you continue to do on this. And welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Hasbell. Good evening, Your Worship and members of Council. I'm Michele Mannerow, Chair of the Owen Sound Family Physician Recruitment Committee, and I'm joined by a few of our committee members. This evening, I believe here tonight we have Jillian Keene, Jan Chamberlain, Steve Furness is with us tonight. Also on our committee is Dr. Ralph Reese, Mr. Garth Pierce, Lois Taylor, and Georgia Bunston. 2012 has been a quiet year for our committee as we've taken a step back to allow the Owen Sound Family Physician Group to feel their way through their two new projects, the new Family Medicine Clinic and the new Rural Family Practice Residency Program. These two initiatives have been proven as valuable recruitment tools in many other communities, with the residence program having an average 50% retention rate for the family physicians within the host communities. Our committee wishes to recognize Dr. Cam Tweedy, Dr. Lisa Severia, Dr. Ann-Louise MacArthur, Dr. Hunsberger, Dr. Veenstra, and all the other family physicians who volunteered countless hours to bring these two invaluable recruitment tools to our community. In the background, we've continued to provide support as needed with arranging physician recruitment tours to the community, hospital, and the clinic, hosting physician recruitment dinners, and hosting medical student visits and events. Ms. Margot Hunsberger attended the Western Family Practice Resident Recruitment Fair, at which the Owen Sound Medical Clinic information was well received. She gathered over 20 names of residents who are interested in the area and is planning an event in the spring to invite them to visit and experience our community. Given these two main initiatives of the Owen Sound Family Physician Group, will be the focus of the Owen Sound recruitment efforts going forward, I felt it was appropriate to ask Dr. Ann Louise MacArthur to speak briefly about the new clinic and the Rural Family Practice Residence Program. Dr. MacArthur is an Owen Sound family physician who's volunteered her time to instruct and supervise Dr. Samantha Saunders in the residence program this year. So, Ann Louise.
Your Worship and members of council, I'm not as organized as Michelle, and I had to jot a few things down here on the way. When I was thinking about what I'd like to say, I was thinking about this last night. And the thing that comes most to mind to me is the number of changes that we are going through. For those of you that don't know me, which is probably quite a few, I try to stay really under the radar. It's very hard to do that when Michele Mannerow is your friend, though. Eventually you get called up to do something. I've been in Owen Sound for 14 years now, and during that period of time, I'm now in my 3rd office. And I used to be in with Brendan Mulroy, then with Elise Severi, and as you all know, last year we all made a gigantic leap into our new building and into our new project. We are moving forward, but you know, we ask you to be patient, as this was a huge undertaking, taking all of our staff, plus hiring new staff and new programs. So we are moving forward and things are improving, but clearly it's still a work in progress, but we feel that there is tremendous potential benefit to the community as a whole and to our patients with continuing to move forward in this endeavor, and we really feel at this point that we are moving in the right direction. In terms of the residency program itself, at the time where we were planning the building, Cam Tweedy became interested in seeing if we could become a site for McMaster University for training of rural family medicine residents. So Cam Tweedy was involved with this at the outset, and we had to have commitment from some of the family physicians that would agree to preceptor these residents. So essentially what that means is that the residents spend their entire 2 years of training in family practice in Owen Sound. So they do all their training, their pediatrics, emergency medicine, family medicine. So they are living in our community for the entire 2 years that they are here. So I think it's very important as patients, if we see them in the clinic, to be supportive and remember that we are part of the education process. We all have a role to play in that. And as community members, with them being in our community for the entire 2 years, that we have a great role in welcoming them to our community and making them feel part of our community. Because indeed, if they're here for a full 2 years, they're going to be well integrated. Some of them have families and children and, you know, houses. You know, they're going to be here for at least 2 years and hopefully more than that. So if we can, you know, please try to do a very good job at welcoming them to our community. We know at what a prime family physicians are to try to get them to come to your community. So, you know, we want to do our best if they're here training. As Michelle said, there's a high retention rate. To make them feel as welcome as possible so that they'll continue their medical careers, hopefully in Owen Sound.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
That's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Okay, quickly. So as mentioned by Ann Louise this year, 2 new family practice residents have joined the Owen Sound program and are working with Dr. Cam Tweedy and Dr. MacArthur as they complete their family practice training. And I'd like to introduce Dr. Mark Robertson and Dr. Samantha Saunders. I told them I'd bring them up together. And Misha, you can come up too. No? Dr. Saunders, Misha's daughter, Misha is here with us too. We'd like to welcome them to the community and present them with the gift baskets, and I understand they're very heavy, so maybe we won't be lifting them off the table. So this is the second year that our, it doesn't, I think they're the same. There's no girl or boy presence in either one of them as far as I know. So this is the second year our community businesses have stepped forward to offer their welcome to the family physician residents with these donations, and we hope you enjoy them.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So I would encourage everyone in Owen Sound who's without a family physician to call the Healthcare Connect line still at 1-800-445-1822, or go to our website to have your name added to a list of people looking for a family physician. And although there are no official practices open, the existing physicians do go to the list to add patients to their practice as room is available. So that's very important that we get more names going on this list. Our committee would like to also thank everyone in the community and the Municipality of Owen Sound who supported us this year with their time and financial support. We continue to accept donations to the Community Foundation Grey Bruce Physician Recruitment Fund. Finally, I'm happy to say that we have 11 eligible students who will be receiving support from our medical student, I know you're waiting for this because this is why I was here, student bursary program. And in order to be eligible for this bursary, the students have graduated from one of our 3 local high schools and have worked very hard to achieve what I believe are ridiculous marks required to be accepted into medical school, either in Canada or abroad. Several are able to join us here tonight, and they actually came just for the event from down south and have come back for the presentation, and I'd like to introduce them and present them with their checks. Jillian, if you wouldn't mind coming forward. Jillian Keen's a member of our committee, and she's helped basically run the student bursary program. So first of all, we have Jessica Flear. Jessica is here. There she is. Jessica's at her 2nd year in Western. Thanks, Jessica.
Thank you.
Kristen VanSligtenhorst. She graduated St. Mary's. So did Jessica from St. Mary's, and she's also in her 2nd year at Western. Graham Bergstra. Graham graduated from West Hill and is also in his 2nd year. Dan Breadner. Did Dan come? I didn't remember seeing Dan. Okay. Sonja Bruin. Sonja Bruin has been here for a couple of years. Sonja's away down in the States doing medical training. 3rd year. 3rd year. Almost done? One more?
One more year.
One more. Congratulations. And finally, we have Shannon McColl with us. Shannon. Shannon just found out she was accepted to medical school in Australia. So the other students who couldn't make it tonight are Neil de Laplante, who's in his 2nd year at Western, Ben Fregeau, 3rd year at Queen's, Dan Breadner, 3rd year at Western, Tanya Nadon in her 2nd year at Western. Lots of kids from Western. Nobody from McMaster, though, which is where our rural practice is from, which doesn't make any sense to me. Kyle McIver from OSCVI is in Ireland. Hiran Shah from West Hill is also in Ireland? Yeah, in Ireland in his 4th year. So those are the 11 students, and we're very proud of them all and wish them all the best of luck.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, and congratulations to all of the students and the family and friends that support the students. It is certainly a team effort, but the gray matter is up to the students. So again, congratulations and all the very best as you embark on your careers. It's very exciting. So thank you. We will move along to our, and those of you that don't want to stay for the entire meeting can please feel free to exit. We're going to carry on. Except for you, no. We do have public question period. Is there any members of the public here this evening who would like to ask a question? Seeing none, we have correspondence received. Oh, yes, Councillor McManaman.
I'm just wondering if it would be possible to move item 12B2, I believe it is, forward, the gaming report.
Absolutely. Is council all right with that? Sure. 12B2, report for the Manager of Economic Development and Tourism with regards to the bingo revitalization agreement. And Councillor McManaman, oh, we're getting a presentation. Absolutely.
If you wish, little
Some
2-minute video.
Helpful for members of the public, indeed. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. So we have a little video here. CD talks about the revitalization efforts. It's an 8-minute video. We'll only play the first minute and a half. And it gives you a bit of an idea of what the initiative's about. Just waiting for it to load.
In order to satisfy our direction and support to local charities and communities, OLG is preparing to implement new games and products into charitable gaming centres across Ontario. Paper play will continue to be offered, but it will be supplemented and updated with electronic versions. Before we talk about what is changing, it is important to understand the current environment. Today, charitable gaming centres offer bingo, break-open tickets, and instant tickets. All three are traditionally delivered to the player in a paper format and, in some cases, a mechanized format. In 2005, the bingo game was updated to offer players a way to play using an electronic device. E-bingo was introduced into pilot locations across the province and is simply an evolution of that same method where players can choose to dab on a touchscreen device rather than on paper. To start, players must go to a sales counter located in the bingo center to create an account. They choose how much to spend, are asked to create a personal identification number, and are issued a receipt. This is a personal and secure account for the player, but one that is also temporary and somewhat anonymous, as, other than ID that may be required to verify age, it is not tied to personal information. With the receipt number and PIN, the player can access the touchscreen device to make their bingo purchase for the session and begin to play when the game begins. People playing bingo on touchscreen devices are playing the same game as those playing on paper. E-bingo is simply an alternative offered to enhance play following the same ball call, but dabbing on screen rather than on paper. During gameplay, all purchases and winnings are tracked by the central computer system. Once finished playing, the player returns to the sales counter with their receipt and, in conjunction with their PIN, can cash out their account. With the introduction of e-bingo, we are able to offer additional bingo games to the player, personal play electronic games. While playing e-bingo, players can choose to play these games. However, rather than playing as part of the session game against other players, they play against the computer. Personal play games include electronic bingo, electronic break-open tickets, and electronic instant tickets, all simply electronic forms of the paper games offered in bingo centers today, but with more entertaining and interactive graphics and play one-on-one. Cost to play ranges in price from 10 cents to $1. Games can be bought and played at the player's leisure. Using that same evolutionary approach, we will also be offering new dispensing units for break-open tickets. Traditionally, and still today, break-open tickets are sold from plexiglass containers. The player makes their purchase at the sales counter and can choose their tickets from the box. They then play the tickets by opening the perforated tabs to reveal the result and redeem any winnings with the sales clerk. That method was then evolved to dispense the tickets through a conventional vending machine with the intention to provide added security and introduce some automation to the game. Players insert cash into the machine and their tickets are dispensed. Players play the tickets by again opening the perforations and proceeding to a sales clerk to redeem any winnings. We are now evolving again to the next version of the dispenser. Many of the same features remain, however there is now a touchscreen element and the results are presented using a more entertaining animated display. Security and integrity has been further enhanced, whereby transactions are logged using a central computer system and the player's purchases and any winnings are maintained by account on the device. Although it is expected many players will enjoy the touchscreen interaction, a physical paper ticket is still dispensed for each purchase and can be peeled open to reveal the result. As with the two other traditional methods, the paper ticket is still pre-printed with the outcome of the game. Inside the device is where the deck of paper break-open tickets is loaded. These paper break-open tickets are similar to those offered today. You can open the perforations and see the play symbols to match and win. On each ticket is a barcode. This barcode is important to note because it carries unique information about the individual ticket. As they do currently, the tickets come in what is known as a deal based on OLG's game permutation requirements. We do not know where the winning tickets are in the deal. A deck of tickets is then inserted into the device and is now ready to dispense. As with the vending machine, the player can insert money into the dispenser. To make a purchase, the player presses the play button and a ticket is dispensed into the bin. In this case, however, while the paper ticket is being dispensed, the device is also reading the barcode to validate the results and show them to the player on the display. The player can still choose to open the break-open ticket to see the results if they wish. The break-open ticket dispenser does not use a random number generator. As we've seen here, it is in fact the pre-printed paper ticket that carries the outcome. There is no intelligence in the machine. It could also be compared with the self-scanners many players like to use to check their lottery tickets. Matching the outcomes between the ticket and the screen, you can see they are the same. The next product is another evolution of a delivery device, electronic shutterboards. Bringing bingo to a shutterboard was one of the first ways the game was evolved, moving from paper play to a mechanized device. As with regular games, shuffleboard bingo is played in a designated session with a group of people, but rather than playing on paper, it is played on a piece of equipment. This machine uses static cards and little plastic shutters that players use to dab by closing over the number once it has been called. The appeal of shuffleboard bingo is that the bingo numbers are called very quickly, one ball call every second or a couple of seconds. It creates excitement and a challenge for players to keep up with the speed of the call. Once the player matches the pattern, they call bingo. That equipment is becoming obsolete. To preserve a game players love, OLG is continuing to modernize it, developing an electronic version. Similar in setup, but rather than playing on hard, static cards, players can play bingo cards on touchscreen devices that can be embedded into slanted counters or just placed on tables. The game will maintain most of the original features, but the new technology will allow both players and bingo center management more flexibility and offer a more modern and entertaining display. To play you can open the perforations and see the play symbols to match and win. On each ticket is a bar.
So I think I won't go through the whole 8 minutes, but that gives you a good idea of what the revitalization efforts are through OLG and the provincial government. And the report, I think, speaks to the benefits to charitable groups, the City of Owen Sound, and the charitable, the gaming organization contractor.
Thank you. Questions or discussion around this particular item? Members of council? We do have a recommendation. Councillor Chamberlain.
I would be pleased to move the recommendation as presented.
This is specific to bingo and to modernizing the game of bingo. And I know that many of the folks that are here tonight in the audience are representing various charitable organizations that really come to rely heavily on the proceeds from the charity bingos. And I believe that the information that council has been given indicates that that this revitalization is certainly going to increase the revenues for the charities, and that certainly is good for everyone. So, having said that, is there any more discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? That motion's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. And those of you that would like to stay for the evening, you are more than welcome to. So, I won't be offended. We are moving back to correspondence received for which direction of council is required. We do have 3 pieces of correspondence. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. If I get back to it, I'm referring to the letter from our MP, Larry Miller.
Yes.
It says we could nominate ourselves for this award.
Yes.
I think it'd be a good idea if we did nominate ourselves for the award. I think that I guess it should go to the planning committee, but it needs to be done by February. But with all of the facade grant that we give out and all of the things that we do, I think it's that we should.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Now, with regards to the other 2 pieces of correspondence. One from Ontario Convenience Stores of Ontario, requesting support to help stop the sale of contraband tobacco products. Council direction. Councillor Lemon?
Your Worship, I would support this. This is an avoidance of legitimate tax, and I would make a motion that we support that and send a letter taking the same. It's not so much up here, but certainly it's working its way north. But in southern Ontario, I know when I was in Kingston a number of years ago, university, there were all kinds of various stores that you could buy discounted cigarettes, as they called them.
Okay. So we have a motion to support the request from the Ontario Convenience Stores Association. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Purdon. That motion is carried. Thank you. We have an item with regards to Township of Georgian Bluffs some correspondence there. Councillor McManaman?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll have lots to say about this later on, but at this point, I suppose just to receive the correspondence. I'm not sure the clerk of the Township of Georgian Bluffs can represent the municipality of Meaford, as is stated in this letter, but be that as it may, we'll discuss that a little later on. I'll motion we receive the correspondence.
A motion to receive would be in order, yeah. Councillor Lemon?
Your Worship, should we not discuss that motion in light of the other report that we're coming to and bring the two together as we have done before?
It does come up very soon, Councillor Lemon, after the consent agenda, so let's...
Motion until we discuss the other.
There you go. All those in favor?
We should do them together.
So we get to 12B1, or 12B2? Opposed? That's defeated. Back to the original motion, Councillor McManaman. Motion to receive it was? Okay. Motion to receive the correspondence from Georgian Bluffs. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. We have a consent agenda item, quite a few actually, 12A, 1 through 11, or 10, with 11 being the motion. That's council's direction on these items. Councillor McManaman.
I'll move the correspondence, receiving the correspondence here, Your Worship. One question, the DIA minutes, they speak to, this is the first time we've seen them about the, I'm just bringing it up, sorry.
Did you mean the consent agenda?
Yes, yeah, that's what I meant, I'm sorry.
Yeah. That's okay.
An issue about flags flying across the main street. I can't seem to find it here, but the tall
ships.
Anyway, we were told that it involved no cost to the city. The motion or another discussion in these minutes speak to no cost to the city. So I looked to our DIA reps on that point. The nautical flags across the downtown.
Is there any member of staff or council members who Councillor Lemon?
I sit on the DIA, and I think I might have made that motion. The intent was not for there to be any cost to the city. We had just asked for permission if we wanted to fly the signal flags across the main street, but they would be acquired by the DIA, would be property of the DIA, and the DIA would bear all the expense relating to it. It never was suggested there'd be any city money. I don't know where that one came from.
No, the last time this was raised, if I might, Your Worship, that's fine, that clarification, as long as that's noted in the minutes. The last time this was raised, we were told that the discussion in these minutes, nor the motion speaks to that at all. So if that's a clarification, that's great. I'm moving forward, but I just wanted to note that.
Yeah, that clarification, it's noted. It'll be noted in the minutes tonight. Thank you. Is there any discussion on any other items with any of the consent agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We're at a report from the city manager with regards to Invest Owen Sound initiative. Council direction. Councillor Twaddle.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would move option 1, that we continue with the Invest Owen Sound initiative, but without the use of an outside consultant to direct it. Option 1 would be that we would continue to sell surplus saleable city property, but using in-house resources, and it says and limited expertise where required. Now, I think that means that we would seek outside legal advice. So that's just clarifying the intent of the motion, and that's certainly what I would support.
Sure. City manager.
It could be legal. It could, I suppose, in certain circumstances, be environmental or something of that nature.
Yeah, that's right.
Councillor Body.
Thank you, Your Worship. I support this motion. I think we're at a point, we've had a lot of work done in the past year to get us to this point, that changing the bylaws so we've got some freedom and some ability to be able to react quickly to the sale of properties. Going forward, I think staff is quite capable of identifying properties and moving forward. And I was even wondering, with limited expertise, if we couldn't at some point, if need be, contact perhaps like local real estate agents or people to help us market the property. There was some opposition voiced when we started this project from that community that they felt they could have helped us out with different things. So in the back of my mind, I'm hoping that using limited expertise may, not necessarily has to, but may be, we'll be able to use some of that community to help us.
City Manager.
Well, thank you, Your Worship, through to Councillor Boddy. I have been approached by one group in particular. My initial indication to them would be that we would probably do a request for proposals if we went out to our real estate groups in the city.
Thank you, Councillor Lemon.
That was going to be my question in respect to outreach to the realtors. I don't know how many realtors there are in Owen Sound, but why not use what's already here? That can work to our advantage because they do know the community.
Absolutely. Any further discussion to the motion? All those in favor? Those opposed? That motion is carried. We are at item 12B3. This is a report from the City Clerk with regards to an agreement of purchase and sale. Councillor Lemon.
Yes, Your Worship, I would move the recommendation.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. We have a report from the City Clerk with regards to 2013 appointment of public members to boards and committees. And Council, I'll draw your attention to the screen over my head that reflects City Council appointments, reflects the candidates that were identified in the in-camera council meeting earlier this evening. And someone to move this motion would then thereby confirm. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. With respect to the Economic Development Committee, do we need a motion to increase that to 4 members? Or do we just accept the 4 members?
Go to the clerk.
I can change the bylaw at the time that the bylaw comes forward, and that will effectively change the quorum of the council. Sorry, committee.
So, not tonight?
At the bylaw.
At the bylaw.
I would be, so by moving the motion, we're moving basically
the whole thing.
The whole thing.
Yes.
I will move that motion, Your Worship.
All right. Any discussion? Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would just note that we are, for those viewing at home, we're still looking for members to sit on the Community Planning and Heritage Committee, the Financial Advisory Committee, the Accessibility Committee, and the Culture Committee. So if you're interested, by all means, contact the clerk's office.
Councillor Burden.
Yes, I'm also hoping that there'll be people who are listening tonight who would like to be on committees and fill these vacancies. It's so important to have community input. But my question was about the Accessibility Committee, whether it would be possible to not only advertise, but to contact organizations in the city who work with people who have disabilities or not-for-profit organizations to see whether they would be able to suggest or make this request from council known to their consumers or staff or people who are involved with accessibility issues. So it's not included in the motion, but if it says advertise, so I think it's just a way to reach out more to the community to try and get these.
So a more targeted approach?
A more targeted approach for the Accessibility Committee.
Okay, Councillor Wright, you moved the motion. Yes. Is that amenable?
Yes, it is.
Friendly amendment then. Councillor Lemon.
One way to reach a lot of people who have limitations and are disabled, and that is through the accessibility or accessible transit we have, perhaps we could have some cards on there inviting them to apply, because there are, I don't know, 50 or 60 people with disabilities a day are on that, and these are people who are mobile but with assistance. And I think that would be a good recruitment tool.
Mm-hmm. It is something that that perhaps we could take a look at going forward in terms of how we do our advertising to encourage members of the public to sign up and volunteer some time to participate in how their community is run and what happens in the community and on the advisory committees. So that's something that we can perhaps broaden out as we go forward. Okay, to the motion. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We will welcome those new members, and we look forward to some new applicants to fill the existing vacancies as well. We have a report from the Manager of Revenue with regards to the Municipal Capital Facility and the Grey Bruce Health Unit. This will certainly alleviate some of the confusion around the status of the health unit, their assessment status. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I would move this recommendation that the Municipal Capital Facilities bylaw for the Grey Bruce Health Unit from the Minister, that Council authorizes the execution of those bylaws.
Okay. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. We have a report from the Director of Community Services with regards to the Queen's Diamond Jubilee Award nomination.
This is the same issue that I had in camera.
Yes. Thank you, Councillor Adair. What is Council's direction? Councillor Purdon.
I would move that we submit the candidates that were identified for the Queen's Diamond Jubilee Medal so that they can be considered.
Okay. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. If you could please ask Councillor Adair to come back in. Report from the Director of Community Services with regards to a new radio tower. This is a land use and it's a tower operation agreement. Councillor Lemon.
The recommendation this is going to assist our police department, the city as well. I think it's one of those win-wins, and it's a very positive step.
Indeed. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. We have a report from Director of Community Services with regards to lands located to the west of Owen Sound, the Family Y. Severance. This is the former Family Y. What is Council's direction? We do have a motion. Councillor Purdon?
Yes, I'd move the recommendation for the severance so the land can be used.
That'll keep the ball rolling. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. We have a report from the Director of Community Services, which is with regards to the recreation cost sharing agreements and the need for user fees. This is item 12B9, starting on page 132, and this is as a result of the breakdown in talks with Georgian Bluffs and Meaford. Councillor Lemon.
Yes, Your Worship. I don't know how we can handle this because the letter from Georgian Bluffs, which they say they represent Meaford, and I have no reason to believe that's not true. The 5% a year, I go back to when we originally entered into the original library agreement many years ago. We didn't get where we wanted to be in the first agreement or the second, but we did move closer and closer. 5% a year to me seems increase, which is being offered by them, appears to me to be reasonable at this time.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think this is a fairly important matter, and I'm wondering if we could ask the Director to walk through her report. I know all of Council's read it, but those viewing at home may not be as aware of it as, and so I'd ask if we could do that.
Please do, yes.
Your Worship, the report that's before you tonight provides a summary of the negotiations to date, as well as it summarizes the content of the October report and the status of negotiations through the city's negotiating team consisting of Councillors Purdon, Boddy, and McManaman. Excuse me. I think the city's negotiating team and our recreation partners agree on the value of recreation to children, and the agreements have traditionally provided equal access for children to all recreation in Owen Sound. The city has had separate recreation cost-sharing agreements with Georgian Bluffs and Meaford since sometime in the 1980s. Last year, faced with a similar deadline, late in 2011, the agreements independently, the city came to an agreement to extend both of those agreements to the end of 2012 to allow for thoughtful discussion. The time at which those agreements will expire is getting very close. In 2012, you'll see on the screen the current contributions of our recreation partners. From Georgian Bluffs, $47,787, and Meaford currently $25,055. To summarize, there have been a number of negotiating meetings between the city and our partners. Prior to those meetings, our team certainly put some thought into the negotiations and came up with a cost of recreation attributable to children and youth, and that was $711,371. With that figure in mind, based on the percentage of use from those municipalities, the city's first offer to Georgian Bluffs would see them paying $153,000 and Meaford paying $71,000, with the city left with $486,000 of that cost. Further into negotiations, the city was asked to remove what were considered some soft costs from the fee. The 7-Eleven was reduced to $638,000, which resulted in a revised proposal from the city at $136,000 for Georgian Bluffs and $57,000 from Meaford. Both those proposals would be phased in over a 5-year period to work toward that number. Understanding an agreement that Georgian Bluffs has with other of their recreation partners, and building on the option, one of the options that the staff group had put forward, the city at the September meeting made an offer of $125 per minor sport participant for the 3-year term. That allowed participation in other recreation programs and swimming and day camps and specialty camps at no additional charge. So that proposal resulted in a proposal for Georgian Bluffs of $72,000 and Meaford of $25,000. So you'll see that Georgian Bluffs has gone, the city's proposal went from $153 to $136 to $72, with Meaford from $71 to $57 to $25. The city's negotiating team considered this sort of their bottom line that they would recommend to this council. At the October meeting, Georgian Bluffs and Meaford advised that their councils had rejected the $125 per participant offer from the city and put forward a suggested 5% increase each year over a 3-year term. A resolution was provided from Meaford Council. No resolution was provided by Georgian Bluffs. It was simply provided at the meeting. Their proposal would be at the end of the 3 years. Georgian Bluffs would be $55,000, Meaford $29,000. Council considered this offer at their October 29th meeting. Council accepted the 5% offer from Meaford. It met the city's target, and advised Georgian Bluffs that they rejected their offer, and subsequent meetings were held with Georgian Bluffs. In terms of the Meaford offer, based on the resolution from Meaford and City Council's acceptance of that offer, a letter and a draft agreement were forwarded to Meaford. The city was subsequently advised in November, mid-November, that Meaford had not approved signing those agreements. There were also 2 other meetings with Georgian Bluffs. In terms of costs, you'll see some attachments that provide a summary of costs. The city has 63% of the users and bears about 84.5% of the costs under the city's last proposal. Georgian Bluffs with 21% of the users has 11% of the costs, and Meaford with 7% of the users, 4% of the cost. We also did a breakdown to support the city's proposed contributions of $72,000 for Georgian Bluffs and $25,000 for Meaford. The proposal would cost each household in Georgian Bluffs $14.88 and Meaford $4.81. The city per household contribution under our proposal would be $60.63. The city's proposal was a positive step toward a more equitable distribution of costs. However, inequalities remained with the city offer that placed a larger burden on the city. However, it was considered by the negotiating group to be an improvement. There are a number of options for council to consider. One would be to continue to negotiate towards new agreements. Two would be impose the existing $100 non-resident fee to all non-residents, which would now include Georgian Bluffs and Meaford. Third, you could impose a modified non-resident fee. And the city's proposal looked for a combined revenue from Meaford and Georgian Bluffs of about $98,000. Based on that target, a user fee for ice-related sports, hockey, girls hockey, ringette skating would be $167. All other sports, lacrosse, fastball, baseball, soccer, specialty, and day camps would be $100. There would be an exemption that where a child had a non-resident card for a sport and they also wanted to participate in a day camp or specialty camp, there would not be the additional charge for the camp. The fee would apply to each child for every sport. The staff recommendation is found on the first page, and that it's that you receive the report, that City Council, in consideration of the report, impose the following non-resident user fee, and that would be ice sports $167 with the others at $100 per sport. That the non-resident policy that's attached to the report be approved as modified, and that city staff meet with minor sport groups in advance of the February 12th minor sport spring summer registration.
Thank you very much. That was a very comprehensive report. In fact, it takes months, if not a year plus, of negotiating, team meetings, and condenses it down into certainly a very understandable format. And to the negotiating team of Councillors Purdon, Boddy, and McManaman, this certainly has been a frustrating task for you. And you are to be commended on giving it your very best efforts. It is very difficult to negotiate when there is no one really on the other side of the table. Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you for those kind words. At this moment, I don't feel very commendable, though, because I think it's a very sad day for recreation in Owen Sound. For over 30 years, we've had an agreement between the city and our neighboring municipalities prior to Georgian Bluffs and the municipality, Beaufort, Sydenham, Keppel, Sarawak, and Derby. For over 30 years we've had an agreement, and today we're at the point where we are a stalemate and must impose user fees. That is a sad day for recreation. Despite what our partners have tried to say in a previous correspondence, these are two very separate and distinct issues, and I'm going to discuss them as such, both Meaford and Georgian Bluffs. I feel very strongly about this. I have some strong wording, but I stand by it. Municipality of Meaford, let's talk about them first. They made us an offer. We accepted their offer. We have a resolution from their council making us an offer. We accepted it. It meets, the offer met our objectives as described in Ms. Calder's report. We agree on the term of the deal. We agree on the financial aspects of the deal. Now at the 11th hour, the Meaford is withdrawing. We've been told by their staff that they're withdrawing their proposal because we can't reach an agreement with Georgian Bluffs. And I'll get to that a little later, but those are the facts. We met on 5 occasions with Meaford and Georgian Bluffs together. I ask anyone to go through the meeting notes, the minutes of that negotiating committee. Those minutes were accepted and approved by both Georgian Bluffs and Meaford representatives. Nowhere, read the Meaford resolution. Nowhere does it state that a Meaford offer, was it stated that a Meaford offer is conditional on a similar deal with Georgian Bluffs? And the obvious question is, why would it be conditional? What does a deal with Georgian Bluffs have to do with the Meaford taxpayer? If I'm a Meaford taxpayer, that's the question that needs to be asked. Just last year, 2011, Meaford Council agreed to a 1-year extension of this exact agreement long before George and Bluffs agreed to it. So certainly they weren't working together in 2011. It's now quite clear from the correspondence we received that these two municipalities have been meeting for some time without their partner, the city, to discuss these issues. I'm assuming those meetings are all been minuted and could be found on the public agenda, but I don't know. The real question for Meaford taxpayers to know what sort of deal has been made, backroom deal has been made, that would cause you to withdraw from an agreement, an offer that you made. Meaford made us an offer, we accepted. Now there's some sort of deal in place, but they're rejecting it because we can't come to terms with George and Bluffs. I don't know how they're going to explain that to figure skaters, lacrosse players, soccer players, hockey players, and on, why they are being imposed a user fee when they are in agreement with the city on all the aspects. I hope whatever deal they've made with George and Bluffs is worth it. That's the comment I'll make. And just the last point about Meaford, this decision by their council has long-term effects for any dealings they want to have in the future with the City of Owen Sound. If they won't stand by their own resolutions, how can we ever negotiate with them in the future on any matter? Because we can't be sure that they won't pull back at the 11th hour. Now let's talk about George and Bluffs, because it is slightly different. George and Bluffs never made us an offer, or we don't have a resolution from their council that we accepted, so it is different. The current cost for youth the recreation cost for youth in Owen Sound is around $227 a child. I know there's a lot of numbers I'm going to go through here, but just keep them in mind. $227 a child. The current offer from George and Bluffs is $92 a child that they would pay. That $92, they'd be eligible to play every minor sport in Owen Sound. That's their offer. We also know through the negotiations, George and Bluffs pays two other municipalities, Chatsworth and South Bruce Peninsula, $100 for their kids just to play hockey in those municipalities. So they've offered us $92 for every sport. They pay $100. They pay $100 just for hockey in Chatsworth and South Bruce Peninsula. The current offer that we have on the table is $72,000, which works out to about $125 a child. For that, they're eligible to play every sport in Owen Sound. They pay $100 for hockey in two municipalities. We're asking them for $125 for every sport. Keep in mind there are no capital costs in this at all either. We're talking about day-to-day operating expenses. The capital costs are borne by the city. That's never been on the table. That increase that we're talking about, as Ms. Coulter mentioned, is $14 a household for George and Bluffs. To sign this agreement is $14 a household for George and Bluffs. Our facilities offer George and Bluffs residents a higher level of service, and the minor sports organizations offer a higher level of competition that they can provide in their own municipality. That's why they're coming to Owen Sound in the first place. As Ms. Coulter's reports talks about, we have reduced our ask to George and Bluffs from $153,000 to $136,000. We're now down to about $72,000. We've negotiated down, through negotiations, that number has come down $81,000. In that same period of time, George and Bluffs has raised their offer by about $7,000. And now you might, probably the viewer at home, why would we negotiate like that? We negotiated like that because we were looking at the perspective of a partner, understanding Rome wasn't built in a day, that there was a large financial gap to close and it couldn't all be closed in one agreement. That's why we tried, boy did we try, to come to an agreement around the numbers that I've just discussed. To be a true partnership, we tried to acknowledge them that we could, their concerns that that gap couldn't be closed in one agreement. Unfortunately, they don't want to look at our side that their partner has to carry an unfair burden of the costs involved. Owen Sound taxpayer pays $227. George and Bluffs offered us $92. They pay other municipalities $100 just for hockey. Our offer is for $125 for every sport. We've lowered our ask by $81,000. They've raised theirs by $7,000. What choice do we have? What choice do we have? I ask anyone viewing at home, a citizen of the City of Owen Sound, what choice do we have here? We have to move to user fees. And unfortunately, the minor sports groups are the ones that are going to be hurt. The people that can't afford those user fees are the ones that are going to be hurt. As I said, it's a sad day for recreation, and those are all my comments, Your Worship. Thank you for the leeway in my long discussion.
No, it's words that fell on open ears. Thank you. Councillor Twaddle.
Thank you, Your Worship. I know Councillor Lemon's referring to the library agreement when he says that it's reasonable to get there over time. Unfortunately, there is no comparison between the rec agreement and the library agreement. The library agreement that was negotiated about 12 years ago got us to equity in 7 years. That agreement was renewed 2 years ago, just a year ago now, for another 10 years. And it is equity that a library user from Owen Sound, or library user from Meaford, a library user from Chatsworth, or a library user from Georgian Bluffs makes this, their municipality makes the same contribution to the operating costs in the library. There was goodwill around the table when that agreement was negotiated 12 years ago. There was goodwill around the table when the current agreement was renegotiated. To me, there's just no comparison. It's not an appropriate argument to say we got there on the library agreement and 5% is a fair offer from Georgian Bluffs, particularly when you take a look at the numbers that Councillor McManaman provided and that Ms. Coulter provided. And I just want to clarify a couple of things in my own mind, because I find them, quite frankly, very, very hard to believe. And not that I am disputing Councillor McManaman's word or Ms. Coulter's word, and I want to congratulate Ms. Coulter for this report, which has taken a very complex issue and made it really very, very clear. And I would encourage anybody who wonders what we're arguing about tonight, go to the city website and look up this report. You'll find it very informative. The things that I want to confirm: we had an agreement, Meaford made an offer by resolution of council, and that's the only way a municipality can speak, is by resolution of council. The City of Owen Sound accepted that offer by resolution of this council. In my books, and Councillor Body, who's got a better legal education than I have, I think will confirm to me that that's a contract, enforceable. So we don't have anything in writing from Meaford saying, oh, well, we didn't really mean it. But we have a letter from the clerk of the municipality of Georgian Bluffs saying Meaford didn't really mean it. Well, Councillor McManaman's right. The clerk of Georgian Bluffs can't speak for Meaford. Apparently, anecdotally, Meaford staff have indicated to Owen Sound staff that we don't have an agreement because we don't have an agreement with Georgian Bluffs, and they were linked, but nothing in the resolution from the municipality of Meaford or the accepting resolution from the City of Owen Sound said, oh, by the way, this is conditional on also agreeing with the municipality of Georgian Bluffs. Have we got that straight? Thank you. This is, by my count, the third agreement with the municipality of Meaford that the City of Owen Sound has had that the municipality of Meaford has reneged on. It's not the first time they've backed away from an agreement with this municipality. There's a long history of this. Councillor McManaman's right. How can we sit down and treat with Meaford in the future when they don't live up to their agreements? The first agreement that I can recall was on, or maybe it was the second, was on recontouring the Juneau landfill. When Meaford agreed to share the costs of some engineering study around whether that was possible, And then when it came time to pay the bill, they said, oops, oh, sorry, no, we don't want to be part of that. We back out. City of Owen Sound made a significant capital contribution quite a few years ago to the upgrade of Meaford's wastewater treatment plant. $150,000, I went and presented the check to Meaford Council on the understanding that Meaford would, in return, take from the City of Owen Sound a portion of the leachate from the Juneau site to treat through their wastewater treatment plant. And that was a condition of us providing them with a capital contribution to their plant. To the best of my knowledge, Meaford has never once been able to take the full amount of leachate that was contracted in that agreement. Now tonight we have, by resolution of Meaford Council, an agreement to have a resolution to have an agreement with the City of Owen Sound that we think they've backed out of, but we don't know because they haven't actually passed a resolution to council rescinding the earlier resolution. And now they want to, or some members of Meaford Council want to reopen the library agreement. And that's only by what I read in the newspaper. 2 years ago, when we went through an election, the one thing that we heard constantly was the need to partner with our neighbors. Why can't you partner with the neighbors to do more? Well, we've had some really good partnerships and relationships, the library agreement being one of them. But this is one of the challenges and the difficulties the cities face, is an attitude that it's just fine for the taxpayers of the City of Owen Sound to subsidize the services that are provided to the taxpayers of our neighboring municipalities. And you know what? My first fiduciary responsibility is to the taxpayers of the municipality of Owen Sound. And it's the same fiduciary responsibility that each and every one of us around this table has. We've tried to play nice and we've worked with our neighbors, but that hasn't worked. The next number I want to confirm is that the city's offer, the city's final offer to the municipality of Georgian Bluffs would have cost their taxpayers $14.88 per household. And that doesn't anywhere near achieve equity. That's just moving down that road. Georgian Bluffs has rejected that. And is not prepared to support that agreement. Councillor McManaman's numbers where it costs $237 per child to provide recreation services in the city. We asked the municipality of Georgian Bluffs for $92 towards that as a step down the road. And according to my feeble math, that means that the taxpayers of the City of Owen Sound would still be subsidizing every child from Georgian Bluffs to the tune of $155 a year. You can only go so far in terms of trying to reach an agreement. So turning down an offer to pay $14 a household to share the cost of providing minor sports. The municipality of Georgian Bluffs is now facing a cost of municipality of Georgian Bluffs isn't going to face any cost. their individual taxpayers who have a child who wants to play a sport in Owen Sound is going to pay $167 per child for ice sports and an additional $100 for other sports. Now, even I can do the math. That could be as much as $267, or if you've got a couple of boys playing hockey, or a couple of girls in figure skating, or whatever ice sports happen to be, that gets pretty expensive compared to $14 a household. But I can guarantee that somehow the city's going to be made out to be the bad guy when the taxpayers of Georgian Bluffs find out how much it's going to cost them to send their children to Owen Sound to play hockey or ball or soccer or attend a camp. Well, I just want to make it clear. I wish we could put up on this television screen Al Barfoot, the mayor of Georgian Bluffs, his phone number when people find out tomorrow what they've turned down and what they've left for their ratepayers to face in terms of sharing recreation cost with the city of Owen Sound. Councillor McManaman, you're absolutely right. This is one of the saddest days that I've seen sitting around this table.
Okay, Councillor Purdon.
Yes, as a member of the negotiating team, I want to echo Councillor McManaman's comments and thank staff for putting together such a good report that's very, very clear. I think as a member of the team, it was very difficult to see how our three communities could agree so convincingly on the rhetoric of partnership and on the benefits of partnership, and in particular the benefit to children and families, and in particular the benefit of a partnership for children and families that are from a lower income or who struggle to have their children involved in recreational services. There was total agreement with all parties on that. Where we couldn't get any further was on the numbers. And I'd suggest that in a true partnership, all of the partners are interested in a fair and equitable financial situation as well as the cost sharing for the benefits of a partnership. So I'm very, very disappointed as well that we were not able to, what in our opinion as a negotiating team was a very, very fair offer, as well as trying for the City of Owen Sound to finally put clear numbers to percentages of children and youth who use the actual services that the city provides from each of those communities. So it's historically, I understand there were numbers from the last 30 years of the agreement that were based just on tradition, who pays so much, how much, and based on how many children took part, but not relevant to the actual cost for the city of providing these recreational services. We went into these negotiations clearly focused on what it costs the city to provide the services and looking for some kind of fair and equitable way of sharing these expenses with our partners, recognizing that it's not all going to happen at once, but we need to have a cost-sharing agreement based on the actual facts and costs of providing a service. That's what we were trying to accomplish. And I would suggest that a real partnership, everyone's interested in that because every single municipality deals with those realities. I think that for the city and for the city taxpayers, we do have to hold firm on that. It's a concept that needs to be supported. It needs to be supported not only by this council, but also by the councils in Meaford and in Georgian Bluffs. That's the way we need to conduct our business. And I would recommend that we move with great regret to the recommendation in this report for a fee, a non-resident user fee. I say that with great regret. I think, and maybe there's a Christmas present out there for all of us. But I don't think we have much of a choice right now in terms of the city. And I feel that it's, we have to rethink partnerships so that all of the partners are going to be truly interested in the economic and welfare of all of the citizens in all of the communities that are being served by an agreement.
So you're moving the recommendation? Yes. Okay. So we have the recommendation on the floor. Councillor Body.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to clarify something, that how we came to our numbers. Traditionally, Georgian Bluffs has had an increasing number of children participating in Owen Sound. It's been growing. It was a set amount that may have been too low all the way along. Meaford has maintained, or maybe there's been a fewer kids playing. And so by applying a straight percentage increase, equal percentage to both of them, was not fair. Not only did we want to be fair to the citizens of Owen Sound and the taxpayers of Owen Sound, we're trying to be fair to Georgian Bluffs and to Meaford. When Georgian Bluffs told us that they're willing to pay, and have been for years, paying $100 per child to play just hockey in Wyerton, or South Bruce, and the same thing in Chatsworth, the light went on that if we were going to treat them fairly, we could charge $125 for all sports, just a little bit more for all sports. Hockey plus $25 is pretty fair. We then started to count their number of kids. We had the counts before to make sure that we were charging per child to Meaford, per child to Georgian Bluffs, so that it was fair to Meaford as well as Georgian Bluffs. A straight 5% increase to both of them ends up not being fair, where Meaford's going to be paying $125 per child, $128 per child approximately to start off with. Georgian Bluffs starts off at $84. That's not fair to Meaford. That's what we're trying to equalize and why we offered them the $125 each. Meaford immediately jumped on it at the meeting and said, yes, that's fair. We agree with that. After that, they obviously went back and had a little powwow and had a discussion and changed their minds on whatever it was that is, we don't know what the discussion is. With all due respect, my friend and fellow councillor, Ms. Purdon, I don't know the partnerships can work in a situation like this. Everyone's going to result in their own self-interest and try and figure out what they can do as cheaply as possible. I agree that it should have worked. It has worked for years, as long as the taxpayers of Owen Sound were paying for it. I came onto council thinking that we could negotiate better and that we could meet with our neighbors and do more things with them, find ways to share costs. I was naive. I don't even think it's possible after these 7 meetings. There's no interest in meeting with Owen Sound and sharing things. The reality is the municipal restructuring 10 years ago has not worked. It has not worked for Sarawak. It has not worked for Sydenham. Meaford isn't really that interested in Sydenham. The residents of Sydenham, their whole economic interest and their whole direction is into the City of Owen Sound. It's not to Meaford. They're not likely to ever want to drive to Meaford for their kids to participate in sports. Economically, I could see where Meaford's at, but it isn't going to work. As long as we have municipalities around the City of Owen Sound that are not paying taxes into Owen Sound, are not sharing in the costs, are not sharing in the decisions, we're never going to have an agreement, and it's never going to make sense. I got an email this afternoon from a citizen of Owen Sound, taxpayer, 3 or 4 sentences, but 2 of them that stand out. I'd like to know why Owen Sound taxpayers should shoulder the cost of non-residential sports. Our taxes are high enough without shouldering the cost of neighboring townships. I think he's right, and I think we've got to that point that we can't continue to do it. The only answer we have is the user fees. It's disappointing, but it has to be. I hope at some point we can start some negotiations at the county level with regard to municipal reorganization and try and solve this problem, because we're going to continue to look after ourselves as we go down the road with self-interest. Thanks.
Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was not on the negotiating committee, and I do want to say to them, I really commend you for the job and for trying to get this job done. And as has been said before, it's right. You know who is going to pay the penalty and do the suffering is the children. And that's where it hurts. It hurts that these kids are not going to be able to come into the city and play the sports that they want to play, or come in and use the facilities that we have available for their use. And we want them to. There's no question. We want these children to come in and use our facilities. But the part that I guess I really want to speak to was just raised here a minute ago, and that is, I don't think it's fair, and I'm looking at this, Georgian Bluffs 1488, Meaford 481, and Owen Sound 6063. That to me is not fair, and I have come to the point, or to the conclusion, that I think when we go back to renegotiate, we better start looking at the cost. What's it costing us, and charging them for what it is costing us. I don't think that the Owen Sound taxpayer should be subsidizing the townships surrounding us. It should not cost families in Owen Sound who have children that are struggling to pay for those children to have sports, to be paying for sports for children out of our own community. So I'm suggesting that if you do happen to get back to a negotiating table, play hardball with them. This is it, folks. They're paying the user fee, and that's it. And the user fee is the exact cost that it costs us, and no longer subsidizing the Owen Sound taxpayer should be subsidizing out-of-town children. It's a terrible thing to say. I have to agree that it is totally unfair to the kids, but I think it's totally unfair to the Owen Sound taxpayers.
Councillor Lemon.
Well, we're in a situation where we've got a frying pan on one side and a fire on the other. We all have compassion for children. That's universal, or should be. The problem is that a year ago when we extended it, I wonder if this was all part of that. At one time, we're making progress on some agreements with our neighbors, and now we're not. And I don't know why. But the reality is, I sat on the original library negotiating agreement. And no, we didn't get there all at once, but we made definite progress. The problem that I have with this is someone's going to get hurt in this, and it's going to be the kids. And I'm hopeful. This ends December 31st, am I correct?
This was after a one-year extension.
Yeah. So it ends December 31st. Registration for the summer is in February, right? Hopefully, between now and then, the councils of Meaford and Georgian Bluffs will come to the line. The reality is, it's the old urban-suburban argument. And the urban taxpayers have been paying for years for the library. We're still paying a larger portion than I'd like. We've paid on recreation and a number of other areas. Plus, we have some other issues with our neighbors, including stormwater issues, et cetera, which I don't think have been resolved, or I'm quite sure they haven't been. And so if we have to go there, we have to go there. I hate to do it. I really do. But on the other hand, we were elected by the ratepayers of Owen Sound. And those are the people who've been footing the bill. And it's time for our neighbors to pay the piper. And I guess since being nice doesn't work, you play hardball.
Councillor Dare.
Thank you, Your Worship.
I was willing to look at it, but not with you.
I'm certainly not going to speak as long as Councillor McManaman, and I'm hoping to maintain my composure. Councillor Purdon's motion is perhaps one of the saddest motions, for me anyway, that I can remember having to vote on my rather long service on this council. this is a complete breakdown of everything as far as I'm concerned. I cannot believe that Georgian Bluff's final offer to us for all sports was less than what they're paying their neighbors to the north and south of them. That they have so much disrespect for us that they would make us an offer that was less than they're paying Chatsworth for hockey, less than they're paying Wyerton for hockey. It's unimaginable to me that that's what they think of us. But I guess at the end of the day, it's Georgian Bluffs deciding where they want to spend their tax money. We here in Owen Sound have decided that we want to spend money on recreation programs for kids. That we think that's important. Council for years has thought that that's important, and we spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on providing recreational opportunities for our kids, and are quite happy to, in a fair and reasonable way, provide that same opportunity for our neighbors' children. But there comes a time, and sadly it's tonight, that if people aren't willing to pay, we can't let them play. I don't know what else to say. It's just a very, very unfortunate turn of events, and I certainly hope that the ratepayers of Georgian Bluffs and Meaford call their councillors, because don't call me, you didn't elect me. You need to talk to your own councillors about this. We, I believe, need to make the best decision for our ratepayers, as painful as it is, as uncomfortable as it is, as sad as it is. We were elected by the people of Owen Sound to make the decisions that we need to make on their behalf, and this is one that I believe that we need to make, as unfortunate as that is. Thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Twaddle, you had one short item.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to clarify something that Councillor Boddy said. Some numbers that didn't make any sense to me. But Meaford, by resolution of their council, made an offer that would have, at the end of a 3-year agreement, had them paying $129 per child. They, anecdotally, because we don't have anything officially from them, have now, or are now withdrawing from that offer in order to support a Georgian Bluffs position that would have them paying $84 a child. So Meaford taxpayers are being impacted by this motion tonight because Meaford Council has decided to pay $55 a child more than Georgian Bluffs is willing to pay, but isn't willing to sign an agreement. So actually they're selling out their own taxpayers in order to subsidize Georgian Bluffs even further. Was I correct in those numbers that you gave me?
Close enough that your point is right on. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, because I hadn't done the math that way. Councillor Purdon, just to the motion, there are a couple of things in the motion that I think need to be clarified if you'll consider a friendly amendment or two friendly amendments. In the recommendation that's before us, I think in the substance of the report it's contained, but I think the motion should say that upon the expiry of this agreement on December the 31st, 2012, which means that as of January the 1st, 2013, the following non-resident fees will be in place for anybody who does not have a signed agreement with the Municipality of Owen Sound. That will give Meaford 14 days to sign an agreement or not. But it doesn't automatically mean, if Meaford wants to come back and agree to the agreement they agreed to, gee, that sounds funny, then we would accept that. But I think we need to make it clear that there's a date on this that's contained in the report, but not in the recommendation.
I accept that as an amendment, and we can all hope for Santa Claus.
That's a friendly amendment.
Thank you.
Are there any other speakers to this? We do have a motion in front of us. I would just ask for some clarification to the Director of Community Services. There's been an awful lot of numbers discussed by members of council this evening. Just wanted to know if you could please explain the three numbers on the per household cost. You know, in the simplest form, the total cost currently going in 2013, an approximate cost per household for sports programs, recreation programs in Owen Sound. Can we get that up on the screen too, please? That would be the recreation, page 141, or I don't know what page it is. It's $14.88 for Georgian Bluffs, $4.81 for Meaford, and then 60.
So through you, Your Worship, the last offer, the city had changed or modified the cost of recreation to $638,629. Our last offer to Meaford and Georgian Bluffs was at $125 per child who participate. When I say per child, that's per child or per participant in minor sports, acknowledging one child may play more than one minor sport. For Georgian Bluffs, that was $72,000, and for Meaford, $25,625. Using with the last census, 2011 census data, based on the number of households in Meaford, there are 5,327. That cost per household was $4.81. Georgian Bluffs, the households were 4,896. The cost per household would be $14.88. You're correct.
Thank you. And I think that those are the numbers that are vitally important. And we've heard a lot of comments from members of council. It's sad. What it is it's extremely disappointing. It's disappointing for the kids. It's disappointing for the families in both Georgian Bluffs and in Meaford. For $14.88, if Georgian Bluffs were to approve a levy for $14.88 per household, all the kids in Georgian Bluffs would be able to continue to participate in recreation programs in Owen Sound without any user fee. For Meaford, $4.81. It's a very, very disappointing day. It's disappointing for, as I said, for Meaford taxpayers. It's disappointing for Georgian Bluffs taxpayers. And it's disappointing for this council. It's disappointing that we entered into these negotiations in good faith in terms of coming to a consensus, something that was workable and something that was affordable. This council has been elected by the citizens of Owen Sound. It is our duty, it's our fiduciary duty to protect the interests of this municipality. I would urge Meaford and Georgian Bluff taxpayers to contact their elected officials and talk to them about this decision that they have made to withdraw by failing to come to an agreement, to withdraw their kids, their families from Owen Sound recreation programs. You know, one time, a few years ago, there was a former member of Georgian Bluffs Council, and as I want to make sure that's former member, and he always said to me, much like Councillor Boddy, perhaps going in I was rather naive, thinking that I still believe this, that a more regional approach to what we do is in everyone's best interests. He said, when you buy the cow, why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? And I suppose what we're saying here tonight is that, well, the milk's not free anymore. And it's a sign of the times, but it's a reality. And it is certainly something that this council, I can tell by the debate and the discussion here tonight, does not take lightly and does not take easily. Having said that, we certainly are continue to provide a great variety of recreation programs for kids. We have tremendous volunteers that provide hours and hours of their time in coaching, in teaching, in training, and those opportunities, we value that time here in Owen Sound. We value our kids, and we believe in the investment that we put into recreation programs for our children and our families. It's very unfortunate that we've been forced into this, but I can tell you the door is always open for discussion. The door is never closed, but come to us with a genuine interest in doing what's best for your community and not what's best for you. Having said that, we should call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion's carried. Thank you.
Your Worship, I'd call for a recorded vote, just to make the point.
Councillor Wright? Okay.
Councillor Adair. In favor. Councillor Body. In favor. Councillor Chamberlain. In favor. Councillor Lennon.
In favor.
Councillor McManaman.
In favor.
Councillor Purdon.
In favor.
Councillor Twaddle.
Sadly in favor.
Councillor Wright. In favor. Mayor Haswell. In favor. That vote passes with 9 yeas.
Thank you. Councillor Body.
Thank you, Your Worship. Subsequent motion, during the past number of years that there's been an agreement in place, both Georgian Bluffs and Meaford have had members on our Parks and Recreation Committee. They've had input to our budget, they've had input to our policy. So I move that upon the expiration of the present recreation cost-sharing agreement, that those members be removed from the committee.
Okay. Further discussion? Councillor Lemon?
I'm not disagreeing with the intent, but what happens if one of them comes forward and says, yes, I want to go along? Those representatives would still remain? Of course. Okay.
Everybody clear on the motion? All those in favor? All those opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Further discussion on that item? Okay, we'll move along. We have a report
I haven't filed that.
from
Heritage property.
12B10. Report from the Heritage Planning Coordinator with regards to heritage property tax relief. There is a motion. And we have a mover. Moved by Councillor Purdon. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. We have a report from the event facilitator with regards to the tall ships update. Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship. I'll move the recommendation. Just a comment to the Director of Community Services. It discusses, excuse me, later in the report about a entertainment tent at this venue. And I guess I would just caution, with Summerfolk weekend going on, a number of people hopefully coming from Summerfolk, I would suggest that the attraction will be the tall ship and not the entertainment tent. And so I just would caution before we spend a great deal of time and or money on that. Obviously, we have to meet whatever our obligation is under the memorandum of understanding with the Tall Ships Company. But I think we just want to be very careful booking big acts in an entertainment tent when we're not going to be able to beat Summerfolk's budget just down the road. So that's just more of a comment. I'll move the recommendation, but It's just a cautionary comment.
Okay. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Director of Community Services.
Worship, I had told Councillor Lemon I would report on the number of tickets that had been sold online to date. There have been 489 tickets already sold, and if you're looking for a stocking stuffer, go on the city's website. The link's there, really easy to use. So you get a boarding. You can print off a boarding pass, so a great Christmas gift.
There you go. Thank you for that. We have a report from Director of Operations on a municipal boundary road maintenance agreement. Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship. Just wanted to highlight a line in the report, Mr. McRoberts' report. The purpose of these agreements is that costs for the services are shared equally between the two municipalities, such that one municipality is not carrying an excessive burden. I'll move the recommendation and hope that the municipality follows through.
All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. We have a report from our environmental superintendent with regards to the solar rental projects. A very exciting opportunity for the city to generate revenue and participate in green energy as well. Councillor Purdon.
I'll move the recommendation of the report for the agreement and authorization for the solar installation.
Thank you. I'll just point out to council that there is a couple of lines indicating that Meaford and Georgian Bluffs didn't sign to support, and that's simply a matter of, it's a point system, that they would receive fewer points and thereby perhaps jeopardizing any opportunities going forward for them. So, Councillor Boddy.
Thank you. Question for Mr. McRoberts. With regard to the airport property, is it decided specifically where the solar panels will go as of yet?
Through you, Your Worship, certainly not at this point in time exactly where they'll be located. There are several steps that the proponent, which is not the city, but rather the contractor, would have to go through in order to be able to be permitted to install. The first one, of course, is to get an OPA, or Ontario Power Authority, contract. The next step would then for them to go through a process of getting approvals, and through that approval process will determine exactly the location of the installations.
And, so the airport group will be consulted with. I think there's some concern about light reflection, possibly radio waves and things like that, and I think probably Transportation Canada or someone like that may have some input into that.
Certainly, to speak to the question, the airport manager has been consulted. Not our current airport manager. This was a process that went on prior to their existence. So they had been consulted. The solar panels are not reflective of light. They actually absorb light. So they will not create a glare issue for any aviation. So I think that should address most of their concerns.
Okay.
Thank you. It was just touched on, but I think I want to emphasize it's not in the recommendation, but it's contained in the body of the report and in the agreement. It is the responsibility of GEMCO to get all of the approvals that are required from all other government agencies, including the municipalities where these sites would be located, both the municipality of Meaford and the municipality of Georgian Bluffs, because one's the old Derby landfill, one's the airport. So I just want to confirm, if there's a question in anybody's mind, people at home who are watching, that. And the reason I do that is because I was asked by a member of Meaford Council recently with regards to this initiative about, I mean, sort of there was a feeling in the way the question was put to me that we were just going to ignore Meaford and not even ask their permission or get planning permission. And I just pointed out that we fully understood that there were lots and lots of approvals that still needed to be obtained, and it would be the responsibility of the contracting company to do that, and that we would in fact ensure that we would follow all of the planning requirements and approval requirements that are involved.
To the motion. Oh, Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship. Question to the Director. The lot north of 26th Street East, west of the rail trail, one of the sites, I had thought through operations, that was a site for Kenny Drain, retention pond, natural, I'm not sure the exact, on the other side of the rail trail across from the soccer complex. I thought that area was for retention or some sort of pond.
Yeah. Through your worship, if I can respond to that question, that there is a portion of that area that will be used for channelization of the Kenny Drain. We'll have some potential for a floodplain for that purposes, but the area in question is actually a high point of land within the same area that would be able to sustain the installation of ground-mounted solar panels.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. We have a report from the environmental, no we don't, we have a report from the fire chief. Revised emergency response plan. And it's identifying a emergency working group and the EIO information officer. Councillor Action, Councillor Wright.
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. We have 4 sets of boards and committees for approval. Councillor Lemon.
Motion to approve 12C 1, 2, and 3, and 4, please.
Thank you. Discussion.
Thank you, Worship. Just to draw Council's attention to the bylaw committee minutes in reference to the offer from the DIA to contribute $35,000 towards the extension of complimentary, 2-hour complimentary parking in the downtown. The motion here doesn't specifically capture what was meant by that, and that is specifically the 700 and the 1000 block of 2nd Avenue East. I don't know if that's probably an amendment that needs to be made to the motion. That was certainly what the committee was talking about. It was certainly exactly what the DIA was talking about when they made this very generous offer to contribute to the revenues. They thought that this was a very important issue, as did the committee, and we're quite happy that it's with the acceptance of these, it will come to a resolution, but it was specifically the 700 and 1000 block.
Thank you, Your Worship. Given all the discussion that we've had about parking in the past and who's going to pay for it, et cetera, this is great news, and I'm sorry it's not on the top of a report all of its own. The DIA members are the ones that benefit from parking, and this is where the cost should be. Mr. Parsons and whoever else was involved, maybe Councillor Purdon and various people that came up with a new idea after we had hit a flat point that we weren't moving forward, should be congratulated. I was hoping for a little bit more money, but I think this is great, great news, and something that we should be very happy with. Thanks.
I suppose it's that age-old argument that it's probably everyone who benefits. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. At the bylaw meeting, when this was raised, it was asked if other years the DIA have come forward and asked us if we would have a week before Christmas to forgive parking costs, and the DIA has not asked for that because they felt that we were doing this and they didn't want to get into it. But on the other hand, it's something that we've done every year, is to give them a week before Christmas free parking downtown for Christmas shoppers, and I would like to put that motion on the floor at this time, if I could, that for the week before Christmas, that we not collect parking in the downtown area.
Okay, if you can just hold that thought, because we do have a motion on the floor to approve the minutes, and then I'll come back to you for a subsequent motion. Councillor McManaman?
Your Worship, just wanted to highlight one point in the Finance Advisory Committee minutes on webcasting, and for those viewing at home who may not be aware, on average we have 78 people watching us online. You can get it on YouTube after the fact the next day. And so I would encourage people to, of course, we want people to watch Rogers, and but if they're not able to, that they can get it online and through YouTube the next day. So I think it's an interesting report. It's just started and we're building, but those are the numbers. Thank you.
I can tell you there are people as far away as Florida watching right now. So, Councillor Twaddle.
Thank you, Your Worship. I want to come back to the downtown parking issue. Earlier this evening, we spent a lot of time talking about a partnership failure and what a huge disappointment it was. I think with regard to the downtown parking, Councillor Boddy's right. There's an opportunity to celebrate a new partnership. Like Councillor Boddy, I'm not sure that $35,000 is the right number, but it's the number that the committee's recommended, and it's a number that makes some sense. And I'm very pleased to see this. There's been a lot of discussion and debate and back and forth about parking for a lot longer than I've been on council. This is in some ways the first real concrete partnership, and I'm very pleased, and I congratulate the DIA for coming forward and being willing to participate. Having said that, I have to rain on the parade just a little bit. I feel very strongly that council's decision on this tonight was preempted last week, not by the bylaw committee and not by city staff, but by the removal of the parking meter heads in the 2 blocks that we approved tonight and the capping of the posts. And that left me with a really very bad feeling that, you know, it's this council's responsibility to ultimately make that decision, and yet it was made by somebody somewhere in the bylaw department last week, and those meter heads were taken out. And I believe that was totally inappropriate to anticipate what the decision of this council was going to be and to take that out of our hands. And I'm sorry to have to raise that, but I think it's really important to raise it. And I don't want to diminish the benefit of the partnership, but I think what happened was inappropriate, and I think it needs to be made clear that that shouldn't happen again.
City Manager.
Thank you, for Your Worship, through Councillor Twaddle. I just want to make sure that the wrong staff aren't accused of something that they didn't make a decision about. That was a decision by staff at City Hall, and I authorized it in large part because of the cost savings when the contractor was in, that was the most cost-efficient way to do this.
So
our apologies for being premature, but I did not want the bylaw people accused of something.
Right, okay, well, that was my understanding. That's where it happened, but
They would have, I expect, Councillor Twaddle, they would have had to have been removed if we were replacing them with new meter heads at any rate. But I understand your, I understand the intent.
The point is there are no meter heads to replace them with because we decided not to buy them. And I think that at least a communication to council would have been appreciated then. And I'm sorry, I thought that decision was not made at City Hall.
Thank you for the clarification. Councillor Chamberlain.
Well, I'd just like to speak to the Santa Claus part of that, is that I had my hand shook quite a few times on Friday afternoon thanking me for helping get the meter heads off of those 2 blocks, and it was like early parking, free parking for the downtown. They were very happy about it, and they said, I hope that's the way you're going to vote on Monday night around that, and so I knew it was ahead of our vote, but I also felt that it was well received, and I think that we should go with the positive of it at this point, and it was quite nice. Yeah.
Councillor Lemon.
Yes, Your Worship, I want to speak on the parking matter. I'm very, very pleased that an agreement's been reached. I was also downtown in that area on Friday with a bunch of delighted business people who were absolutely overjoyed to see those go. And they said consumers liked it as well. Although one storekeeper was told by another storekeeper they left the meter head in front of his business and took all the rest, and he went dancing out of his store onto 2nd Avenue to discover that he was having his leg pulled. But I think it is the first agreement we've had on parking. I also get the sense now that we'll look at parking as a partnership between the city and the DIA, because those are the two people who are affected by it. And I'm hoping that this will be a first step in revisions that will make the system a better system for everyone. And that includes the ratepayers who aren't paying for it, but it's a user pay system, just a little different than it was before. And it'll be interesting a year from now to talk to the merchants in the affected 2 areas, because I'll be very interested. I think I know what the answer is already from their response. But I think they will say this has got to continue and expand, and I think over time it will.
While I understand Councillor Twaddle's concern about the preempting of the decision tonight, I applaud the city staff doing something that's prudent in many ways, and that really signals a different approach to the downtown that I think is very constructive.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion to approve all the boards and committees. Is there any discussion on any of the items remaining? If I could ask the clerk that it's just noted in the minutes that specifically it's the 700 block and the 1000 block. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. We have in-camera minutes. Councillor... Oh, Councillor Wright.
Your Worship, there's somehow I would like to put a motion on the floor that that we not ticket the vehicles from now until Christmas. I'm not saying that we don't monitor the 2-hour parking, but just that we not ticket the meters. Now, I don't know whether that's giving them a week. I mean, it's difficult now because this is the day Christmas is a week tomorrow. So it's pretty hard to say, give them a week free parking, but the DIA would like to have some free parking, but didn't want to ask us for it. So I don't know whether council has an appetite to give them any free parking or not, but I'm quite sure we'll hear about it.
We go to Councillor, Mr. Ritchie.
Thank you, Your Worship. I can recall City Council has given free Christmas parking in the past, but it's been some years ago since we've done that. And certainly with our more thorough review over the last 6 months of parking and its financial position at this time, I can't just say that, to be quite honest, we can afford it. Again, it is the parking system's money. We want to have that system in a deficit position at the end of the year, and I'm not sure with a week's free parking in total that we would be in that position. But it's been a number of years since we've had free parking in the downtown during the Christmas season.
I think, did we not have free parking a week before Christmas last year?
No. I can certainly check it, Your Worship, but I am 99% sure we haven't done that for a few years now.
Okay, Councillor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would urge the councillor to not move forward with this. I think we've got a really good news story here. We've got a good partnership, as others have said. The DIA specifically did not ask for this in recognition of what was happening otherwise. And we've had long discussions at bylaw about discussing these parking issues not as a one-off ad hoc, but as a altogether in October. So I certainly wouldn't support it, and I would urge, I just think this isn't the time.
Fair enough.
They didn't formally ask for it, no, but have. I certainly will withdraw whatever. Yeah.
Motion's withdrawn.
Just perhaps they'll not be so heavy-handed with their tickets between now and Christmas.
Hi. Okay, in-camera minutes. Moved by Councillor McMenamin. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Other business, Councillor Adair.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. And it actually has to do with parking, but not in the downtown. As many of you may know, there's become an issue in and around boulevard parking by the new health unit. There is a section of road that when you look at it, a section just off the road on the boulevard, when you look at it, that looks quite appealing to park there. We don't allow parking on the boulevards in the city anywhere, but in most parts of the city, you would actually have to jump the curb with your car to park on the boulevard. This is a nice, smooth transition onto a very nicely paved area where you're not allowed to park. You're not allowed to park there because it's a danger. It's a hazard to other vehicles. It interrupts sight lines. There's a reason you're not allowed to park there, except that it looks like you could maybe park there. Reasonably, having signs there where it has become an issue, reminding people no parking, would solve the problem. And I would ask that the Works Department or whoever is responsible for such things install no parking signs on the boulevard on the east side of First Avenue West in the 1400 block. The reason this has become a problem is because we now have a very busy harbor area with the new medical center, and also the reconfiguration of that corner to sort of modern engineering standards and turning radiuses, etc., has created this issue. It's not really a problem, shouldn't park there, but the purpose of the bylaw is to stop people from parking there, not necessarily to collect fines, unless people park there knowing that they shouldn't be parking there. So a couple of signs there, no parking, would, I think, easily solve the problem. At least people then couldn't say, well, I didn't know I couldn't park there.
I'm going to go right to the Director of Operations.
So through you, Your Worship, this issue has been identified to staff, and staff are currently in the process of reviewing the parking situation at that location, and we'd like to bring a report to the appropriate committee at that time.
Councillor Dare?
That's fair with me, yeah.
Okay, we'll go with that. Thank you very much. Councillor Lemon.
Yes, Your Worship. In doing that, I trust you're going to talk. There are a number of houses along First Avenue there that have no parking because the houses are next to next. And people have been parking there for a long time. I think there maybe should be some consultation with the people who are directly affected by it, because people have been parking there for a long time, and I don't know whether they've acquired any right to park there or not, or whether there are any agreements.
We've been here a long time, yes. That's true. Thank you. And we are now going to Councillor Twaddle.
Yeah, right. Thank you, Your Worship. I don't often do this, but I had an opportunity yesterday to attend a concert, and I was impressed on two fronts. We know there are an awful lot of talented people in this area, but I attended a concert put on by Owen Sound Singers in Accord, which is a group of people who come together and sing because they love to sing. And they put on a concert yesterday afternoon that was just amazing, thoroughly enjoyable. And so for those 79 people who are watching this on live streaming or YouTube tomorrow, the concert repeats this Friday evening at 7:30 at the Tone Studio, which is the former Christian Science Church at First Avenue and 9th Street West. That was also the first opportunity I had to be inside that building for any event, and it's a heritage building that has been turned from a church into a studio, as it's called. There are yoga classes. This group, OSSIA, rehearses there one night a week. A lot of uses. It's what's called, I think, constructive reuse of a heritage building. I think there were two really positive things going on yesterday afternoon. The concert is absolutely amazing. It it's seasonal, but there wasn't one Jingle Bells or Here Comes Santa Claus in the repertoire. That was absolutely amazing. Very, very international, high quality performance. I was really pleased. And the acoustics in that place are quite good, yeah. It was a great opportunity.
Terrific. It was a really busy weekend with all kinds of great musical events, and everything else was going on all over the place. Councillor Purdon.
Yes, I wanted to ask council whether we could send our thoughts, our prayers, our condolences to the community of Newtown, Connecticut. Whether we do things like that. I know it's there's been an absolutely horrific massacre of children and teachers. And I know it's been on my mind since it happened, and almost everyone I've talked to has been affected very deeply by this occurrence, and also it brings a lot of fear up, I think, that these things happen. And I wondered if that would be something that council would consider, just a message from this community to their community, and just expressing our condolences and our hope for them moving forward.
I absolutely will make sure that that is done, and I don't believe there'd be any discussion or debate on that point at this council. We did send a tweet out on the Twitter feed, the city's Twitter feed, late on Friday, and certainly there isn't a person anywhere that hasn't been deeply affected by the gravity of this particular act of violence. So that will be done next week.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk. Okay. Thank you. We are in formal session. Resolution adopting proceedings in Committee of the Whole, please.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Chamberlain that the actions taken in Committee of the Whole and considering public meetings, deputations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports, matters tabled, motions for which was previously given, and other business be hereby confirmed by this council.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Notices of motion. New business by resolution. Bylaws, please. Thank you.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Chamberlain that bylaws number 2012-210 to 2012-217 and all bylaws between numbers 2012-219 and 2012-226 be hereby passed and enacted, and further that bylaw 2012-218 be deferred to 2013.
Well done. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. We are adjourned.
Your Worship, I wonder if I could just take a moment to wish council and residents of Owen Sound the very best of the season, and to offer on behalf of staff our profound thoughts and wishes with those much less fortunate and very heart-wrenching circumstances. So with that, please everyone have a very healthy and safe Christmas.
Well said. We are adjourned.